Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, a ton to talk about here on a Tuesday. Big announcement early this morning. I got word that it was coming down late last night, so we're going to get into that big announcement by Major League Fishing. We will talk about that, and we have a very, very special guest. I think probably the best sight fishing angler in the world, Mr. Shaw Grigsby.
I would have to agree. I'm shocked. We have talked about two things fishing. And when I came in, it was snowing outside. And if I was a bet man, which I've been known to be, I would have bet that you'd have let off the show with the fact that there was a flurry or two outside in Oklahoma in the middle of April, Mark.
Well, I was going to get to it. I mean,
did I steal your thunder then?
No. That was a great transition. Pretty cool to see as much green grass as we have out there just outside the studio with massive snowflakes coming down.
Okay, it's not getting carried away. They're not massive. It's not like they got
they're
the
quarter
snowplows
size.
out. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What is the one tournament that has to do with snow that you love to bring up?
It's Jim Morton.
We talk about it on a monthly basis.
Jim Morton.
We talk about Jim Morton catching fish in the snow more than we do about any classic anyone's ever won.
Well, the other one is Sean Goodwin on Lake of the Ozarks.
Here's my next question.
Yeah.
Today, is there an opportunity right now somewhere in Oklahoma where someone could catch a bedfish in the snow?
Maybe. Kanawha.
Have you ever heard of that happening
Kanawha.
before?
I would say Kanawha.
Have you ever heard of that happening before?
I have not.
Now, folks, it's not like snow. I know we got guys in Montana up there. I mean, that's real snow, but there are snowflakes falling. But would that not be cool to catch a bedfish during a snow flurry?
I would say Kanawha or Sooner. And those are two power plant lakes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Kanawha's generating or not. I would think maybe.
A non-power plant lake, because you do that in Illinois. You can do that over there in Arkansas and stuff.
Well,
during
you
the
asked.
snow. But I'm talking about a natural.
Maybe Texoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. That's what I was saying. I think there might be the potential somewhere around here.
That's pretty cool. Pretty
if
cool.
Thunderbird had some clarity to it, you might be able to see one. Because once they're up there, I think.
Yeah. We're going to find out how the weather affects the sight fishing bite.
Do you think he's ever sight fished in the snow?
No.
No? You don't think he's ever had a tournament that was an early spring where it had been a warming trend and then a cold front came?
As seasoned as he is, I would have to say no on that one.
I think he's probably sight fished in
him.
every possible scenario there is.
You can ask him that.
I have some gifts over here too, Mark.
What do you got?
Well,
I know you have a plethora of fans now.
No, I just got people that listen to the show and really, really appreciate the time and effort that these people go to. The first one is River Rat Tackle. I believe they're out of Indiana.
All right.
Yeah, Brownsburg, Indiana. And if you remember, I admitted during the Andy Montgomery show that I am not the world's best with a swim jig. Well, River Rat just happens to make some swim jigs, and
got you some.
They sent me a care pack. There's one. It's kind of like a flashy, sexy shad color.
Let me see.
The all white. Here.
Do you need to go to that camera?
No, and they put
show everybody.
Yeah. Give me the ISO cam. They have two different sizes.
All right, there you go.
They
it's
have
queued
a
up.
quarter and a 3/8.
It's queued up there.
This is the one that I like. Let me slide over here. So like I said, I am not
I don't have the light on.
A swim jig expert, but I mean, I like the line tie in it. I like the colors there on the bluegill, and just a really good little wire keeper on it, which I think is it's a pain in the butt if you're casting any
That's a
type
massive
of
hook.
jig. And like I think it's a 5/0 in there. Super sharp, great weed guard. So they gave me kind of a care pack. I got 3 different colors, like a bluegill, a white, and that white flash.
What's the white look like? Throw the white up there real
Well,
quick.
this is the white's just a white.
Can you not comply?
There's that one.
Thank you.
There. That's kind of the sexy shad chartreuse. And then
Okay.
here's I'm going to have 6 swim jigs all over the studio.
Heaven
right
forbid.
there. But
You act like that's an issue
looks like
or a
there's-
situation.
Yeah, it looks like there's like a double collar on it too, so it won't fall down. But big shout out to the folks at River Rat Tackle. I was
All right,
looking
very
at the
cool.
logo. This is kind of funny. I think look at the back of that. You see that logo right there? See that, Mark? And when I first saw it, I got swim jigs on the floor now. Holy. Hold on. They also sent a cool little finesse jig with it's called like the not so finesse jig, I think, but it's a finesse jig. Kind of got some meat to it though.
I got you.
But I look at that logo and I was like, I wonder how they can use the Wile E. Coyote in the back, and then I realized, that's a river rat because it's River Rat Tackle. So you want to talk about good transition? So I have seen this next one, this next package that came in that was very hard to open, came from Joel Crawford in South Carolina. This is where the river. This might be the best transition we've had on this show in 10 years. Let me get all these swim jigs over here. I'll clean it up during the break. Then we'll go to Shaw Grigsby. What is the other thing that we have recently talked about? And I kind of queued it up for you there. So this is all I've seen of it, Mark. I've seen
What's that?
That much of it.
Okay.
You know what it is?
Dude, I have no idea.
This is going above and beyond. And there's a
Who is this from?
Joel Crawford.
Okay.
In South Carolina. Remember we had the show about the rats?
Oh, yeah. He sent you
He
a
sent
rat.
me a rat. My very first rat outside of everyone's got one of those BBZ1 or Spro rats. Remember
Yeah.
that they're giving them away at the Classic for people to sign up. This thing is like a handmade rat. It's got like the screw-in tail on it.
Oh, my gosh.
It is
Hang on. Let me get the shot queued up here.
110% the real deal. He said, I was
All right,
listening
it's
to the
queued up.
Jared. He said, here, look at that. That, I don't even know what type. It might say it. It might say it, but that is like the real deal. It's got like the hollow with the wood. It's actually really light. Feel how light it is. I thought it would be like really heavy. It's probably only an ounce and a half.
Yeah, that's super light.
It's super light, but so he said, Matt, I was listening to the Jared Littner interview today. Handwritten note, by the way.
Very nice.
I was listening to the Jared Littner interview today. Heard you say you didn't have a rat. I had one I could spare. I also want to thank you and Mark for the shows. Y'all keep me sane. Tight lines, Joel Crawford.
Very cool.
This is very cool. And I mean, this is... I'm sure there's a rat expert out there that knows exactly what rat that is, but that is the size that is manageable. It's not one of those.
Yeah.
It's not a muskrat. It's like a.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to give this a shot.
I think that would be very cool at the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be very cool. Especially, I'm
Yeah.
interested. Can you roll that over beds? Can you roll that? I mean, down
I don't
the
know.
shallow laydowns?
It's the right color.
Well, I will. There will probably be a video of me with the rat coming out very soon.
Very nice.
Tomorrow or today, I'm going to drop the video of the BFE flipping them up there.
Cool.
Brad's he's wrestling with what to do with the footage that he shot when he went with you.
Yeah. He should throw it out there. It was really good. Big fish.
Yeah.
It's almost a 6-pounder.
I can't believe I've got a custom rat now, and I've got swim jigs. It's been a very good. What day of the week is it? Is it a Tuesday?
It's only Tuesday, my friend.
Be a very good Tuesday, and then I still have to get
Yeah.
with Jeff Creed to figure out when we're going to do this. What if I beat Creed on Murray with this rat and a swim jig?
Not going to happen.
That would
but
be.
You will get destroyed if that's what your arsenal is.
I don't know. I mean,
But you go ahead and do that.
I think you only have to have.
You might catch 30 pounds with
I
it
think
the way you're going lately.
You probably only have to have one or two come up on this thing, wouldn't you think?
Maybe. especially this time of the year.
I'm mesmerized by the rat.
It's very cool. Very
Thank
cool.
you, guys. Thank you for the river rat tackle and also Joel Crawford. Those are two very nice gifts.
A couple of things real quick, and then we will take a short break here and get to Shaw Grigsby. But the big announcement that we will dive into with Shaw is the announcement of the 2021 schedule. Not locations, but they do have dates for Major League Fishing and the BPT. Do not have locations, but they did announce this morning the location of the 2021 RedCrest, and it's going to be in Tulsa. Grand Lake is going to be the host lake, and I am intrigued by this entire process, Matthew. And I'm intrigued because of two reasons. One, the date. It's going to be February 23rd through the 27th, which, folks, I'm telling you right now, that is a major risky.
It's like the middle of winter, isn't it?
That's crazy. I mean, it happened when the Bassmaster Classic was at Grand. They had major snowstorms blow through. Very, very risky from a weather standpoint for it to take place on February 23rd to 27th. Me personally, I was hoping that they would put it at the end of the year to where we could actually see a major event in the fall. And that's just me being greedy. I mean, I have been very vocal on this show.
What is it, February 21st through the
23rd through the 27th.
Okay, well, this past year it was in the 50s during that week.
Yeah.
With the lows that were above freezing.
But is it not risky from a weather standpoint?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's very risky.
Anyway, so big announcement, and it's going to be interesting to see what the date is going to be on the 2021 Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
To see, is it going to be a week before? Is it going to be a week after? Is it going to be a month after in the month of March?
They haven't really done it that early. Typically, it would not surprise me. Based on the schedule, the RedCrest of 2021 is, and who knows how the hell they're going to qualify for it. They've only fished 3 events.
Well,
so far.
That's the thing. They're going to take the top 30 no matter what. And I think a lot of that has to do with whether or not they have ICAST. And I did some digging yesterday, and this is just a side note, from sources that do not want to be named, but some very, very important people from a manufacturing standpoint, from a retail perspective, and from an industry perspective. And Matt, if I had to put a percentage right now, I'd say there's only about a 40% chance that ICAST is going to happen.
ICAST, the biggest trade show
takes place in July in Orlando, Florida.
People come from all over, and I mean, it's
I think there's a lot of factors. You've got the international factor, plus there's a large amount of money to be saved by not going.
No, I agree. But I also don't see how, right now you have to make your plans, and no one really knows. Yeah. So obviously so what you're saying is if there's no ICAST, that allows Major League Fishing basically a 2-week window to get in additional stages.
Even more than that. I think it's about a 3-week window. But here's the thing. Maybe they go ahead and they roll out there and go, you know what, guys? Hey, we've got to take care of our own business. We're going to have tournaments. Forget about if they're going to have ICAST or not. We're just rolling.
So, hypothetically, we did have back-to-backs on Table Rocks. Could we just see a back-to-back-to-back on the same lake just to get the stages in?
Maybe.
Could we see some truncated tournaments?
Here's my thinking, and from reaching out to several people, and we'll ask Shaw about it too. I think the goal number is, Matthew, to get 6 in. 6 out of the 8.
That's fair.
I think if they get 6 out of the 8, they take the top 30. Top 30 qualify for the 2021 RedCrest, and we see what happens at Grand in February. They're going to have the expo for 3 days. They don't have a weigh-in, but I guess they're going to have a meet and greet. And here's the deal, and this is going to be a massive comparison of which, if anybody that's out there listening don't think that there's going to be a comparison, I would like to discuss that fact with you. about the fact that there's going to be comparisons from a crowd standpoint.
Oh,
the
100%.
classic crowd versus the RedCrest crowd.
You've got two classics in Grand.
And it was jam-packed.
I've never seen it there. They had to set up TV screens outside of the arena in 2013 because there were so many people that wanted to get in. It'll be very interesting. I mean, they aren't just saying, oh, this is just, I mean, they're definitely going to have comparisons, and it sounds like they're planning on the big expo. They're planning on the whole shebang on this just based on that small press release that came out. Also, need to make mention, I didn't know if it was still going on. I saw you put it on the instant feedback there from River Rat Tackle. If you want to check out those swim jigs, code BTL, they give you 10% off. That's a cool deal.
Yeah. Cool deal. So they have 3 stages in.
Yeah.
I think they get 3 more in. I think it's going to be based upon 6 events. If they get 5, it is what it is. But 30 guys are going to have a shot at $300,000. A lot of money. Same amount as the Bassmaster Classic.
Timing-wise, I mean, do you think this would have come out regardless around this time of the year? Do you think they pushed this through so that they could have some push, some relevant? I mean, do you think it's interesting?
And some of the people that I've spoken with, and just from what I know about some of the things going on in the city of Tulsa, I think the city of Tulsa really, really wanted to push this to let everybody know, hey,
we're still doing events.
We're going to be in business, and things are going to get better, and we have taken a lot of pride, a lot of ownership in partnering with Major League Fishing to have this event in 2021. And I think it was very, very important to the city of Tulsa and the commissions that were involved and all that.
Also, if you, and I'm already we're thinking way ahead to the fishing, but if you think of that Cliff Pace Classic, what was one of the interesting things? I believe like he only didn't have a limit all 3 days. Won the Classic with 14 fish.
Yeah.
That was the Hank Cherry Classic. KVD was in the mix there.
Yeah.
Iconelli. But if you look at it, it wasn't a numbers game. It was hard to catch keepers that time of the year. That water temp was in the 30s, high 30s, low 40s. Real slow baits, methodical, and with this being, we saw what Edwin did in the RedCrest last year on the Mississippi River with the numbers in the summer. I mean, that kind of time of the year is more conducive to catching. Would you not agree? That August, September time frame?
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit different.
It's all about the weather. I mean, you give me all kinds of grief about talking about the weather, but when you have an event on February 23rd through the 27th, dude, it's all about the weather.
My God, I got to quit playing with my rat.
It's all about the weather.
That's gotta be annoying.
All right, so interesting dates. I mean, the schedule for 2021, let me see here. It goes all the way through the month of September, which means obviously from a television standpoint, they have changed some things up for 2021 to actually have television past the month of September.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious.
We've seen a lot of things that they've come out with and kind of change and morph as the things have gotten closer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think that they're, this will be their 3rd year into it. You think it's pretty set in stone, or you think we could even see some changes from all this stuff with the schedule?
What, as far as the dates and stuff? No, I think they have it.
All right.
One of the questions that I did ask when I reached out to Major League Fishing was, are any of the locations locked in yet? And they're going to give me a response on that. Obviously, if they had some of the locations, if they don't have them all, they probably didn't want to put 2 or 3 on there if they have them locked in. Really interested in kind of flipping it over is usually we will hear by now where the Bassmaster Classic is going to be for the following year. I think, obviously, with everything taking place, that this might have hindered a little bit the announcement. I don't know that. I know, let's just say I have been in contact with several metropolitan areas of which there has been an enormous amount of interest in hosting the Bassmaster Classic in 2021. So we're going to have to wait and see, obviously, where that takes place. But I think it's south. If you drew a line from...
Is it in a location they could have it the same week as the RedCrest?
Yeah.
Look at what we've seen over the last 2 years. You want to put a number on it?
Yeah.
Put a number on it that
What's
it's the
that?
same weekend. What are the odds that the Classic and RedCrest are going to be the same week? What do you
They're
put?
not going to do that.
What? I don't care. What do you put? How many times over the last 2 years have you heard one or the other going, oh, they're not going to do that, and then it happens?
I cannot see that, especially since this date has
I
been
can
announced.
see anything happening.
No.
What would you put the odds at? Percentage-wise. Percentage chance that the Classic and RedCrest are on the same week.
30%.
That's pretty high, Mark. That's pretty high for
30%,
for you
maybe.
saying not going to take it 30%.
25, 30%.
You got a lot of people throwing money down on the tables
Dude, the only reason
for
I
less
say that
odds than that.
is if the ink is dry already with a community, a metropolitan area.
Yeah. Do you think
What are
the
they
ink
gonna
is dry
do?
somewhere? Do you have some intel? Is there some dry ink?
Me personally, all the grunt work that I've done and research, I don't think the ink is dry yet.
On the date or the location?
The location.
The metropolitan location or
Yeah.
the lake?
Both. I don't think the ink is dry yet. I think there's still some due diligence going on with a couple of metropolitan areas. It is going to be a metropolitan area.
I could see it being the same week. I'm just stirring the pot here, but I really could.
There's no way. That would just be. You know what that is?
You know what it would do?
That is ego versus ego. And who's going to win?
You just proved my point as why I think it's going to be on the same week, Mark.
I don't know. I don't think the sponsors would like that because you definitely have.
But it would make someone make people make choices.
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
it?
listen, man, you have big players in the game that are sponsors of both, and I think the sponsors would step in and go, "Look here, boys, we need to get this worked out. This is not a good thing for the industry. This is not a good thing for our company. This is not a good thing for the anglers. Let's get this worked out." I think the sponsors would step in, man.
I mean, we're a year away from this. We don't even know where the Classic is, but it's a fun conversation.
It is fun, but I don't think that's any way that happens.
Yeah, Shaw will not be sight fishing on Grand Lake in February.
He might if we have a massive 3-month heat wave.
What is the earliest that you have ever seen him go to the beds in Northeast Oklahoma?
March?
Middle of March?
No, first week of March.
You've caught bedfish the first week of March.
Yeah.
And on a heat wave year?
Yeah. First week of March. Never
30% is pretty high odds, Mark.
Dude, it's not going to happen. All right, real quick.
Then why wouldn't you put it at 0 if you said it's not going to happen? Why'd you put it at 30%?
Because there's always a chance that the ink might be dry. Could be dry. Right? And they just haven't made the announcement yet.
Oh, that would be...
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just, once again, I think the sponsors would step in and go, look, boys, we have to fix this. This is not going to fly. Not going to work. Anyway, we'll see. Just a quick blip here, Matthew. Dude, I'm getting soft.
Why are you getting soft?
I am getting soft. You know what I did last night? I watched The Voice. Have you ever watched The Voice?
Yeah, it was on TV last night, too.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch the whole thing.
Did you watch any of it?
Yeah.
This one lady, woman, girl, whatever, sang the most beautiful song I think I have ever heard, dude. I had to listen to it like 3 times. What is happening to me? I looked at Carolyn and I went, can you rewind that? And she gave me this, are you out of your mind look? What did you just say? Yeah, I listened to it like 3 times. Did you watch it last night?
I don't know, but you just had that great preview clip there afterwards. That's just going to stand alone right there. That'll be available.
Do you want to hear just?
No, I don't. I would like to hear Shaw Grigsby talk about.
It's the most beautiful
fishing.
song in the world.
I would like to hear Shaw Grigsby.
Here, listen. Just.
I would like to discuss the Classic and RedCrest potentially being on top of each other.
This is
again.
not. I'm a headbanger, dude. Listen
you
to
had
this.
all night last night, and you could Google it up on YouTube.
How beautiful is that?
Sounds like a talented singer.
It just gets to me.
We're not going to be able to post this on YouTube if you don't cut this off after like 8 seconds.
Is that not beautiful?
It's a song. I mean... Are you being serious right now?
I'm serious, man. It got to me.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
Let's get to Shaw Grigsby.
Are you surprised by that? You know how much of a headbanger I am?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Dude, I seriously rewound the thing 3 times and listened to it.
That's like some indie stuff. Yeah,
What?
like you walk into a bar in like Austin, Texas. That's what you expect to hear, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I just have never, ever really been into that. But for some reason, her voice and the way that she sang
You all right,
that,
dude?
it was kind of Stevie Nicks
You okay?
a little bit. You know who Stevie Nicks is?
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah. It was cool, man. It was really, really cool. You ever seen that before in me? That soft side like that?
Once or twice.
Oh, so yeah, I'm a fan. I'm gonna have to watch the next round now.
They
We'll
put the
see.
gauntlet out. They're saying, hey, we're going to Tulsa.
Yeah.
We know what's been there. We're going to a lake that you know it is. We know how big the Classic was when it was there. We're going it within a month at least of the Classic,
Yeah.
probably before. So we're going to compare ourselves to the Classic and then set the precedence for the biggest event that we're competing against. It's a ballsy move.
All right. Shaw Grigsby coming up. Gonna talk sight fishing and a whole lot more. Everybody stay tuned.
The search for the best combination of value and performance is over. It ends with Elite TI2. From high-res views of active imaging to mapping in real time with Genesis Live, the high-powered performance of Elite TI2 continues to dominate. And now, wirelessly share sonar waypoints and routes between TI2 displays. Get up to $200 cash back when you purchase a Lowrance Elite TI2 or Hook Reveal display. Visit Lowrance.com/offers for details.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it the sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share with you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday. Really looking forward to our special guest today.
I've been Googling up this rat.
Matt has a rat.
Over the break.
Wow.
It's an Austin Lures rat.
It's pretty impressive. Why doesn't it have eyeballs on it?
It does.
Does it have eyeballs?
They're just black like your soul.
Black eyes. Wow. Yeah, that's an impressive gift there, dude.
I was right. It's an ounce and a half. I look at all the trophy pictures.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm having a good morning.
Very nice. All right, it is time to go to our special guest. He is live via Skype. Shaw, you there, man?
Absolutely. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing great, man. Very, very excited to have you on the show. A ton to talk about, and I know a lot of people out there. I received several comments. They're very excited to talk a little sight fishing this morning. But before we get into that, obviously, I'd like to talk to you about the announcement of Major League Fishing, the RedCrest, headed to Oklahoma in 2021, Grand Lake, in a very, let's just say, I could predict a chilly month of February. What are your thoughts, Shaw?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I can tell you that, of course, that's the headquarters basically of fishing there is in Tulsa. And Grand Lake is a great lake. Now, you remember we fished it, bass fished it a number of times as a classic. And I believe we fished it, I remember fishing it, and I thought it was late February when we fished it. And the potential for snow and all the rest is there. But I can tell you the cool thing is the fish really bite. That's a great lake. And tremendous for suspending jerk baits in that cold time, and it'll be a really, really, really good RedCrest.
You had a top 12 there in 2013.
Yes,
that
I
one,
did.
the Cliff Pace one.
Yeah.
I actually finished, I think, 8th. I was doing really good, but I got I didn't get on my spot the last day. You know, that's what happens. You know, so.
Have you ever caught a bedding fish in the snow?
Well, we had a 10-minute talk about this. Don't laugh at it. I was dead serious because it's snowing outside in Oklahoma here, but the water temps are 60. So I was like, somewhere right now there's a fish on a bed and it's snowing in this region, and we're like, well, if anybody's done it, it's Shaw over the course of the year.
You forget, I live in Florida.
But you fish everywhere.
It's nice and warm, and snow I just don't like. But so anyway, no, I really haven't. We fished a few times, you know, when it's really cold and snowing, but I've never fished when one of these odd snows came along.
Huh. What is the earliest or tournament anywhere that you could remember where you were like, oh my God, that's a fish on the bed? And you had jerk baits and jigging spoons on the front deck. Is there anything that sticks out in any of your years, or you were like, people will not believe this?
You know, I found them bedding in late October in Okeechobee. And you sit back and you go, really? It's October, you know? And I think another one that's really strange is I've caught one on the 4th of July bedding. And I found them in Okeechobee again in June. And you're like, that can't happen. But obviously, you know, Florida's kind of an anomaly, meaning that your season is so long, it's just stretched out, and the temperatures are good. And so bass just go, hey, man, let's get it on. And there we go.
Wow. All right. I want to get back to 2020, Shaw. Do you believe, and what are your thoughts about getting the remaining events? You're only 3 into it. What's a realistic number that you believe that you guys will get in? Will you get in 5 events? Will you get in 6 events? What are your thoughts?
Gosh, it is so hard to tell. You know, I would like to, you know, I think that taking precautions, and you see the greatest thing about Major League Fishing, the Bass Pro Tour, is that we don't have a weigh-in, so it's not based on a big group of people coming together. So literally, we could fish a tournament right now. Now, the issue is, of course, taking people away from their homes and their family in a tough situation. The other thing is that you don't have a lot of housing, you don't have a lot of restaurants and places to get stuff. But overall we could hold it safely. And, because, we have our boat official in the boat and maybe a cameraman, and that's it. And so if you ended up having the same boat official, you would never be changing anything. And so you could hold them literally right now. Finding a state, I mean, there's a few states that have done some stupid stuff. I mean, Michigan being one of them, and that have just said, no, you can't go fishing. I'm like, that's the ultimate social distancing, is putting one or two of your family in a boat and being out, you're still partaking and you're still not giving it to anybody. So that's kind of a no-brainer. But anyway, I think we will get at least 2 or 3 in, before the end of the year. I would love to see a start in May sometime, but, most likely before you can get a state to let you come in, it's because you're bringing people from all over the country into that state. And so, it could be, as late as June before we get to hold an event.
Wow.
And then I don't know how many we can get in, but let's say there's 2 or 3 that we could get in, and who knows, you might even get more. So.
All right, I have been somewhat vocal on this show. I am yearning for a championship that takes place at the end of the season in the fall.
Yearning.
Yeah. Yeah, is that a good word? You all right with that, man?
No, it's a solid word.
Yeah.
It's just not often used at a fishing podcast. But.
Well, we're a cut above, Matthew. We are a cut anyway. I was hopeful when the schedule came out that there would be a championship at the end of the year. Every guy that we've had on this show over the past probably 4 to 6 weeks has said they love fishing in the fall. Now, I know logistically there's a lot of reasons why to kick off the season with your championship. But seriously, Shaw, you've been in this game a zillion years. Would it be okay to have your championship at the end of the season rather than the beginning of the season? What are your thoughts?
I when you look at it, in just a fishing point of view, that's fine. But when you look at it as a business point of view, your head's up against some of the greatest sports. And I'm telling you, I am a diehard. When I say diehard college football fan, and you don't mess with college football. So I'm telling you, when it comes down to holding one, I'm like, no. So I'm on the business side, that you're not going to get the crowds, you're not going to get the participation, and you're going to be heads up. For news media, you're going to be heads up against some of the greatest sports that are out there. And so, you got baseball ending, October, you've got, things going on. I just don't think that's a good time. So, pretty much, I think they're probably business-wise doing it the right way. And, I loved it back in the old days when we would have one in the summertime, and you'd have all the families, the kids are out of school, and all the families and all would come and enjoy that. And that, I think we were always in late July or early August. But, obviously the brighter minds have moved it to a time that is better for business. So I really don't think, you're talking 80 of the best guys in the world in the RedCrest. I mean, in the RedCrest, there are only going to be 30 of them, but you're talking about on tour. These guys are so good, and it really doesn't matter when or where you put them. It's a competition, and competition fuels everybody. And so when it goes down, they're locked on. I mean, they're gonna go at it. So it really doesn't matter to me if it's in January, February, March, April. I just don't want to be in some place that where I can't fish, like ice on the water or something like that.
Well, that might happen.
You mentioned the competition at the time. I mean, this has got to be kind of weird for you. The month of April, the end of March after the Lake Fork event. I mean, you don't have the TV show to film. You don't have the tournaments to fish. I mean, this has been your life for the past 30 plus years. What has it been like hanging out, and what have you done fishing-wise or competition-wise over the past month? Or you just been kicking back in the movie theater?
Well, I actually got invited to go up to Georgia and fish some little ponds and have a mini tournament, catch and release and such. And Bryce and I fished, and a buddy of mine, we all fished and barely squeaked out a win in that deal, but it was only a 2-boat tournament. So yeah, my buddy Brandon.
Throw that one on the resume.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was a fun day. So we did do some bass fishing, caught some big fish, but I really have been saltwater fishing. That's kind of a passion, and we do. We bass fish a lot. And so when you get a little bit of a break, you go saltwater, and man, we started mashing the big snook and big redfish. I think I posted one of a big redfish I caught on a thunder cricket and a slabo, but it's really, fishing is pretty good right now. So getting a little bit of time, the family stays. We're not, I do have 3 medical people. I have 2 ICU nurses. My daughter and her husband are ICU nurses, and then my daughter-in-law is, and I forget the exactly, but they do contrast and whatever those scans are and stuff like that. So they're all around. I think it's nuclear. That's what it is. Nuclear med tech or whatever anyway, but she was teaching and doing everything else. So we're talking the whole family is exposed every day. And so you just have to take precautions and keep washing hands and doing what they do. But I applaud them for being on the front lines. My wife has been making, surgical masks for them. And it's pretty cool. She went and got some surgical stuff, but she also went down and got one of those HEPA filters that you would put in your house that would take all the stuff out, and she broke it apart and used it. So she went and bought it down at Lowe's and then cut it apart and put it inside so that you have all the protection from that and the other protection. It's really cool. So so the whole family's been involved in that aspect of it. And I would love to be fishing. I mean, that's what to do. I'm missing. I thought we had probably one of the greatest schedules that I've ever seen. Going to North Carolina, which we missed in like a week ago or so. Going to Grand, which we would have been at maybe in another few weeks. But and Toho, for the heavy hitters. I'm just going. This was just a tremendous schedule. And of course, the thing that breaks my heart the most is losing out on a June tournament on Thousand Islands on the St. Lawrence River. That is a dream. I've only fished it one time in June, and it was so stunning and amazing. And I'm like, I just can't wait. I just hope that when they reschedule, that's a possibility, but probably not, because New York was one of the epicenters of this virus. So I don't know how quick we would be able to get in to do a tournament, but it would be awesome to see us have those tournaments kind of next season like we had planned this season.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk sight fishing, and we're going to get to a number of questions on the instant feedback that fans want to know, Shaw. So let's take about a minute and a half break, come back, and get to those questions. So everybody stay tuned here on a Tuesday.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done. While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks. Why? Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a grate for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back with our special guest, Shaw Grigsby, and it is time to go to the instant feedback and a plethora of questions about sight fishing, Shaw. So
we've been doing these technique-specific shows lately. So I mean, we've had some. Well, we had back-to-back swim baits.
A lot of swim.
Well,
baits.
We had a glide bait, and then we had a swim bait, and then
who did the glide bait?
Carl Jacobson.
Nice.
And then Zaldane got into the swim baits a little, and then we had Jared Littner talk about a bunch of stuff that I don't think he even meant to talk about. He let like 3 or 4 secrets out of the bag. He's got lures going for $70 on eBay now. He let out a secret buzzbait tricks, and then he literally was like, "Oh, that was probably a mistake." So that's what you got. You got Littner, who just gave up all the West Coast goods. That's who you got to follow now.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the instant feedback. First up, Binkwood wants to know, what is the best color lens for your sunglasses for sight fishing?
Right here. I don't know if you can see through that. I'll turn it this way, but you can see. Put it on a light background. Right there, that is a amber lens. Now this is a Strike King S11s, and that is actually the cloud lens. It's a Bristol frame, but your frame is, what fits your face better. So, this right here is my best sight fishing lens. Now, it's kind of an amber yellow lens, and unfortunately, I don't know that they still make that. My buddy, we were sight fishing together, and he said, "Man, I like that." And I said, "Well, you better, if you want it, you better research it and get them." And he went and found them and was buying them. And I'm actually thinking about buying a few too. I would love for them to bring that back. But the cloud lens is outstanding. Now they do have a DAB, which is dark amber brown, which is, again, that amber is what collects light and what shows details. And so that is a great lens. That's my number one all around lens to fish anytime. So I can sight fish with it. I can fish with it during, bright days. I can fish with it anytime is the DAB, and that lens is available, and I use that a lot. So I keep a pair of those in there. But if you just want to know what the best ones I've used, it's right there, and it's not expensive. They're $49 pair of glasses, and you can still find a few of them if you look and research and find it, and it's the cloud lens. So what it does, again, I kind of said, is it collects light, and so you see detail, and that's what's important when you're sight fishing, is to see detail, because you're going to be looking for everything from a fish. You go, oh, there's a fish, and maybe you don't see the fish. Maybe you see movement. You see a little bit of a shadow. Or you see fin movement where you're just seeing something kind of make a wiggle. So there's all kinds of little things that you're looking for. I find a ton of beds that people don't even know are beds. They're black, they're dark, but they're clean. And you see them with something that collects light. You're able to see that. So very, very good question. It's the Strike King S11 cloud lens, incredible sight fishing lens. Probably the best I've ever used.
Very cool. All right. Frank in Michigan wants to know, do you choose a certain color of bait depending on how the fish is acting?
Absolutely. Great question. So, and I can tell you stories that go way back. Back in the old days, we used to fish with a partner, right? Yeah. So you'd be standing side by side, and you'd pitch into the bed, and he'd pitch into the bed, and it was really a booger to try to do it. It was pretty intense. But I remember one tournament where a partner I had threw a bait in a bed. I'd been fishing this fish, and he threw over there, and this fish just engulfed it. And my partner had no clue. He couldn't really see, and he wasn't really feeling well, and it just spit it out. And I went, oh my gosh. So I ran back in there, dug in the box real quick, got the same color, fired in there, whacked, and caught the fish. and it's because he had the right color. So colors definitely matter to a bass on a bed. I carry multiple colors. I like, dark colors, and I like light colors. And so what you have is a lot of the beds, if they're like a white sand bed and you throw a white bait, I'm just going to reach up here and grab this is one of my favorite baits, and you probably saw it on it, the rage bug. So here's a white one, right? Mm-hmm. Rage bug. And so if I throw that on it, but it's white sand, it just disappears. I can't see where it is. A lot of times I want something that's dark. So I take a dark rage bug, like the blue bug color, which is a great one, anything really dark. So here you got a dark one. Here you got a light one. I don't know if you can see them as well. I'll put them out in front of them like that. So the difference is this on a white background, I can see very well. So I can see where my bait is. I can see how that fish is reacting, where it is right in front of him and stuff like that. If he's getting excited, I'm looking for the fin movement and all like that. I carry a variety of baits and a variety of colors at pretty much all times. Sometimes you want something with a lot of legs, and so this is not exactly color, but still color. I'm going to open this. This is, you've heard forever bass on beds are, just love lizards. Well, and lizards are very good. This is the Magnum Rage Hog, and you can just see that it's just got all kinds of stuff going on, and it's big. And our Magnum Game Hog is what it is, Magnum Game Hog, and that bait is big, bulky, and a lot of tentacles, and they can't handle it. So you want to have different colors, and you want to have different sizes, and you want to have different looks for them, and then you're pretty much covered. But you can tell almost everything I got there is soft plastic.
Oh, we got to go back down the path of the draw tournaments. Sight fishing back in the day when you had the pro draws. That's a gold mine of stories right there, and it's far past. I mean, it's past, what is that, the statute of limitations? You could name names. You could tell stories, Shaw. I mean, did you ever have KVD back there and you're like, Kevin, this is my fish. Go do something out of the back of the boat. And who was the guy who spit it out? I mean, were you sitting there? Did Roland pitch in there and he didn't see it? He was down there messing around with something? Who was the guy who you got to tell the stories, man. This is where it gets good.
So here's a quick one. I got paired with Rick Clunn, and he's one of my favorite partners and ever, him and Gary, and it was just always a blessing to get one of the really big name guys. But anyway, I get paired with Rick. We're fishing mega bucks over on the Harris chain, and he literally goes, "Man, this is your lake. I'm going with you. I'll meet you in the morning." I mean, he doesn't even ask anything. He shows up with a couple rods and reels, a Ziploc baggie of a couple hooks, and I told him he could use, whatever baits I have. So he had a couple hooks. He had like a jerk bait and a spinner bait. And he beat me like a drum. It was so impressive. He was so fun. And he's always said, I can't sight fish. I can't see him and all that. And I remember we were fishing in Arkansas, and he came up and he says, man, I saw this fish on a bed. And I went over there and I caught him. And it was like, it's really cool that, that I just love Rick anyway. But anyway, but yeah, those days had some fun times where you literally throw back to back. And the hard thing is, a lot of times because I'd done it so much, I could get them to bite first. Well, that first bite, they bite it, but they don't have the hook. And so you'd set the hook and you'd tear off a leg or something. And then, the next guy throws in and whacks them. And so I got beat a few times, and it wasn't any fun. I can tell you that.
So you have this talk beforehand. I'm very curious because Jeffries once fired me for a day and a half because I pitched in on a fish that he had gotten fired up, and that was his fish. And we were on Texoma, and we literally put the boat on the trailer, and he fired me for a day and a half. I'm not joking. He was that legitimately upset that he wanted that
pissed.
Fish. Anyway, so now you're fishing for $30,000-$40,000. Dowsback total pounds got to the Classic. You had pre-fished on all this, so you find a 7-pounder. You and the guy, it's fair game for who? How does that go down?
There were a lot of times where you would work really well with a partner, and they would go, okay, this one, you spotted this one, this one's yours, and wait a minute, this one's mine, and you'd work very well. I remember getting paired with Gary Klein at Eufaula, and we mashed them. And we pulled into this little pocket, and I go, okay, here's a big one here. And he says, do you mind me catching these over here? And I go, no, they look like 3-pounders, And so while I'm fishing this one that I knew was going to be a 7 or an 8, he sits there and whacks a 5 and a 6. And because they were bigger than 3-pounders, and I'm like, there you go. So, but we both came out with 28 pounds or something ridiculously high. We had 50-something pounds in the boat between us, and it was a great time. So, but you work together, it's a lot better, and just kind of share them and all. But. Yeah, there have been some tense times too.
What's your tensest? We got to hear one. Like I said, statute of limitations, Shaw. Well, I want to hear the tensest, most heated battle over a betting bass in a draw-on-draw tournament that you've ever had.
It was Lindell Martin, and he's since gone, and great fisherman. But we fished everything heads up. And I mean heads up, and literally that was one of those days where I would get every one of them to bite, and it was hard for me to, nowadays you have that rule where if they're accidentally hooked outside, you can't weigh them, and so when they would bite it now, you bite it and you watch them swim with it and they spit it out and you're like, doggone it, or you see most of your leg hanging out. You can't set the hook. Well, back then, if they had it and you set the hook and you got them out there, that's okay, but you'd set the hook because they bit it. You watch, boom, the bait's gone, set the hook, and there goes half your bait. And he literally would pitch in and catch every one of them, and it just drove me nuts. I was like, are you kidding? I got this fish to bite. We'd work. I mean, he literally could have just sat there and waited. Yeah, okay, get him. All right, now I'm pitching there. Catch you. So I know how you feel, Mark.
That's good. I got one more question for a story. That in all your years of sight fishing, when it goes to the thing that sticks out to me is that little backwater area that you got in when you went up against Grant Goldbeck. It was pretty obvious that one of you two guys was going to win it. Does that stick out to you as one of the most unique sight fishing tournaments that you fish, because you're like, there's my competitor, we're in a pond, and whoever smashes them today is going to win this thing? Is that one of the most unique kind of sight fishing tournaments you've been a part of?
I think what was so unique about that is that I fished one spot for 4 days. That's really rare. I mean, really rare. You know, the Rayburn tournaments that I'd win, I literally would change areas every day. So let's say I started in Five Fingers. I'd go over to Five Fingers and I'd whack a good set of fish that day. And the next day I might go back because I left one or two or found a couple big ones and try to catch them. But then I might move around to the next arm. Or I might move up to the deer stand. But I would move around, go to Harvey the next day. You know, I would move around, and every day of the tournaments, it would be primary on a different area. Okay. And, Farmers and Powell, and you just move. Where that tournament, every day, I just go back in the same hole and just start fishing and fish slow and slow and slow and look. And then you'd find one, you go, oh. Now, I remember one with Grant. I found this 6+ and she just wasn't ready. She was really kind of spooky. And I said, man, I'll catch her. Give her about 30 minutes and I'll catch her. And I was thinking nobody's going to find her, and Grant's the only one really in there. And so I rotated off of her and kind of swung out and moved around here. Grant just happens to swing by, and I'm like, oh no, and he stops and whacks her. I'm like, really? It's like you just should have put the power poles down, just let my Triton sit right there and wait, and go, okay, I know she's going to bite, and at some point she'll settle, and so you make some mistakes every now and then. And
it turned out okay for you, Shaw. That one turned out okay. You could let him have that 6.5 for that one. You had that one signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah. What's the longest that you've spent trying to catch a bedding fish?
I've spent over hour, and I think I may have spent one that was, approaching 2 on a real big one. But I try not to spend that much, even on a big one. You just, they ask at the, doing the Bass Pro Tour there at Lake Fork, they said, well, how, because this is a numbers game, we don't have a limit. So it's not like if you catch an 8-pounder, you're golden. It's like you better catch an 8-pounder and then some 4-pounders and some 3-pounders and another 8-pounder, and then a 7-pounder and some 4-pounders. And so, you have to keep going. And so they said, what's the most time you would spend on it? And I'm thinking I screwed up last year at Chickamauga and spent too much time on one big one. I spent probably an hour and it cost me the whole tournament. So, and it was a real big one. Bit on the second cast and lost her. And then it was just like she stayed around, but it was pulling teeth to get her to go. Needless to say, it cost me the tournament. So, meaning making a check and going forward and such like that. So I was thinking, it probably don't want to spend more than about 10 to 15 minutes max, on a fish. Well, the very first fish I'm sitting on is a 4 something, and I put my weight till times in. Just go 3, 2, 1 lines in, and I start pitching on this fish. Well, like 20 minutes later, I'm still pitching on it, but I jack her up and I put her in the boat, and it's 4 something. So I'm like, I'm okay. But I realized, you're going to spend a little more time than what you really want to on a fish if you need it, and so you like to get them on first cast, and there's fish that are that good. And if you know where they are and you can stay way back, make a long cast, take like an ocho and let that thing settle in, and just really, if you make a precision cast, you're golden and you can catch it on the first cast. After that, it gets to be, they kind of know the gig's up, and it gets to be more tedious and you have to work hard. So I think a couple things that are real good tips are staying away from the fish to where you really can't see them. And then you just wait for that thump, and fish slow. And as he pulls you down, set the hook and you got him. So
very cool. All right. Ben wants to know, are there any unconventional lures that you can use that will fire them up?
Of course, drop shots really good at times. There's all kinds of things. I think this little dude right here, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily unconventional, but and you were just talking about it, the swim bait, and this is the Rage Swimmer, and I'll see if I can hold it up where you can get a better picture of it, or hold it off to the
That's
side.
perfect. Shaw's gonna have to spend half an hour after this putting everything back in clam packs. Anyway, continue.
So you take it and you put it, and now in sight fishing, I'll hold this up too. Let me see if I can get it where you can see it.
That's perfect.
Anyway, so that is a TK 170 swim bait hook. It's got a screw lock on the top here and all, but it's a real deep pocket, but it's stout. So I mean, you that's what you want, is something stout, because you get a big one and you're hitting him with 20 or 25. I'd use a Braze X Cigar. Sometimes I'm using straight braid to them, and because if it's a big fish, why not? And a lot of times they really don't care. So whether you got braid or fluorocarbon, and so because they're doing their job. If it's an aggressive fish that's protecting a bed, and I'll put 60 pound or 50 pound. I like 50 pound better, but I'd use 65 pound braid, pitch it over there, whack, and drag them to the boat. Throw them in the boat. So you need a hook that will hold up to that, and that TK 170 is stout, and it's got a deep pocket to where that swim bait can get out. Now people think, okay, swim bait. Well, what it is, it looks like a bait fish, right? It looks like a fish, and you get it to go down on the bed, and then they're thinking that it's a, whether it's a goby on a smallmouth, or whether it's a bluegill or a catfish coming in on a largemouth, they like it. So it's not really unconventional, but it's not, kind of normal. I'll tell you one thing, I brought one of my best sight fishing rods, which is the old Lew's Magnum heavy cover. But if you see, I got a screw lock on here. But one thing you want to look at is when you're fishing sight fish, I like Texas rig with the bullet weight. Okay, so I've got a bullet weight here. And the reason being is that if you rig them a little different, you may not get that perfect fall where the bullet weight's going to drag that bait, boom, right to the spot. And that's what you want. You want it to get down, get it on the bottom, and you don't want it turning off to the left, turning off to the right. A lot of times belly hooks will have a little bit of a turn to them. I still use belly weighted hooks. Those are fine too. But I really, really like to use a Texas rig when I'm sight fishing. And of course, drop shots, a heck of a deal too. And you can catch them on little stuff and Neds and all the rest. Sometimes those big ones fall for the little bait when they didn't want the big one.
All right, pegged or not pegged?
I am a non-peg guy. And I can tell you that, Larry Lazone, who used to be on tour, made like 8 Bassmaster Classics back in the day, or 9, whatever. He always said that you catch more of them with it. And then I remember doing the color commentating on Bassmaster Classic television, and watching Denny Brower pitch a tube on High Rock Lake, and he would get it tangled up in the tree and the bush and tangled up, and then he'd get it in, and I noticed that his weight wasn't pegged. And I didn't ask the question. The camera boat driver, we went in when we knew he had won, and we pulled up to him, and because he wanted all the cameras way away. So we watched him catch a big sack. We said, well, he's got this wrapped up. We pull in, we mic him up and start talking to him. And after I asked him all these typical questions like, what the heck are you doing in 100-degree heat in 1 foot of water? And when you're thinking that everybody should be out there in High Rock throwing, doing the David Fritz deep cranking and ledges and Paul Elias stuff and all that, and Mark Davis out there on ledges. And so I asked him all those normal questions. And then I said, you got any questions? Just my camera boat guy, it's his boat, and he's a big bass fisherman. He says, yeah, why isn't he pegging his weight? And I asked Denny, and he kind of looked at me like, I shouldn't have asked that question. And he just answered it simply. He said, Larry Nixon said I'd catch more fish with it unpegged. And that's all he said. And so Larry Lazone told me that. Larry Nixon, one of the best, if not the best soft plastic fisherman we've ever had on tour. And he goes, you catch more fish. And so I think, I'm a non-peg guy unless I have to. I feel that pegging a weight cost me the win at Philadelphia, and I was really on them and strong, and I lost so many fish day one. I had it pegged for some stupid reason. I was just pegging it to get through stuff, and I unpegged my weight, and I don't think I missed another fish the whole tournament after unpegging it. So, it's one of those things where I try not to. I don't even peg my big heavy weights, punching and flipping. I want that weight to break away. I think you may get more bites. When it penetrates, you get one thing chasing the other. You may get more bites. The other thing is usually when they bite it, they don't have the weight in the mouth, and you're not having to blow something out of his mouth or get it to move, or having something for them to really get a hold of, because soft plastics, you jerk and that hook's going to penetrate. And so, there's a lot of little things why I feel that is, but I can tell you, and I noticed on your list, you got Denny Brower coming up here in about 2 days.
Yeah.
One of the world's greatest angler. I mean, you're just talking one of the best anglers and one of the not only smartest guys out there, but he's just one of the greatest guys and fishermen you could have, and personal good guys. And so you can ask him a little bit about it. I'd be interested to hear what he said too.
When do you remember people starting to peg weights? Because I'll say I wasn't around then when the plastic worm was invented, but you always hear about the man's jelly worm, but no one ever talks about the pegging with the the actual lead in front of it and all that. But was there a time when it was like, oh, there's this secret out there? It's called pegging with a toothpick. You get it at the restaurant, and then your weight doesn't slide. And everyone's like, ooh, and everyone's starting.
That really, we were doing that when I was in high school. And you got to understand, I've been doing this for 30, 35 years or more, and maybe 36, I guess, anyway. So you're talking, it's been out there, and that's what we used to do. We used to have these, we'd actually look, and I still probably have a few left of the original long tapered round toothpicks. Now you can't buy them anymore. They used to taper from the center out. Now you'll see little short tapers on the toothpicks. And so I still have some of those old toothpicks, because they would slide in. If they're tapered too short, you just get a little piece in, they fall out, after one movement, and it comes out. And the flats only work on little itty bitty stuff, and so you got to have those long taper toothpicks and to really work. And of course now they've gone real high tech, and they use the little rubber bobber stops, and those work very well. You slide them on your line ahead of time; they don't burn or cut your line. The secret on the wooden peg, when you pegged your weight, was that I would peg it about an inch up my line, cut it off, and then slide it up my line to where that line put a groove in that wood, right? And so now that line that was, had maybe been crimped when you put the pin in, now it would you would cut that off when you tie it on your hook. So I would do that all ahead of time. You just wanted to be, careful with your line.
That's smart. I lost a lot of fish at the Assumption Bass Club back in the mid '90s because I wasn't doing that little trick right there.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Barry in Missouri wants to know, does the color of the weight matter?
Wow. Very good question. So, and I'll give you one. So back in the old days, we just had lead, right? Lead weights, and they were lead colored. They were, gray. You'd get a couple of scratches on them when you caught a fish, and it'd have teeth marks, and it'd be kind of, shiny. So my buddy and I are fishing. This is the guy that got me into tournament fishing. His name's Jerry Beavis. And so he and I are out at Orange Lake, and we're fishing. It got hot. He's caught 3 fish. I've caught none, 0. Okay. And so, and we had the same exact outfits and everything else, and same baits and line and you name it. I mean, they're identical. You couldn't tell them apart. Well, anyway, we jumped overboard and went swimming, climbed back in the boat. I got in before him, and I just happened to pick up his rod. You don't really notice because they were identical. So I picked up his rod, and I made a cast anyway, and I caught one. And then I caught a second one. And the only difference was his weight was black and mine was gray. And Jerry had picked up my rod, and he's like, you took my rod. And the only way we knew was the difference in the weight. And so I've always been a big black weight fan. for most fishing. You get one experience like that and you go, dude, I'm going to keep doing it. But if you looked on this one, and this is a bed fishing deal, this is actually a silver unpainted tungsten weight, and so Strike King tungsten right there. And the reason I do that is if I'm using something like a bait fish, like this, Rage Swimmer, and it's kind of the, silvery minnow looking deal, then I like having that silver weight. So if I'm using white bait, I'm usually got a silver weight. If I'm using this dark bait, I'm using a black weight. So those are my main two. I'm not big much on green pumpkin and stuff, except on shaky heads. I'm green pumpkin pretty much all the time.
All right, what about the color red on weights? I know there's been a lot of discussion about the color red. What are your thoughts on red?
I think it would be a very, very good thing. I think the color red is something that they key on in the shallow water that they can see it. I've tested red hooks. I've tested red. If you remember when I won that tournament Harris chain, I had a little red cap deal that went on the end of the bait. So when you do that, you can dip it red. You can do all kinds of things, and they do key on that red. So now it's the first color to disappear deep. So I'm not sure anything deep means anything, because as soon as you get low light, you're not going to have it show up. So, but shallow water, absolutely, and I know they key on it. So yes, you could use red. And I just still use silver with silver and the black with the black. And, I guess you could, paint them up red if you'd like to.
All right. Patrick in Indiana wants to know, have you ever caught a bedding bass throwing a buzzbait on top?
I have, and it's in that time of year, they're shallow and you're just going down the bank. There's a number of baits that are really good to go down the bank and catch them. And you also got to know, and during the spawn time, the farther north you get, the more they come in at one time. Okay, so your spawning season up north may only go for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something total. They may have a spawn on a new and a full and in between, and then they're done. And but what you got to notice in most places is that you got spawning going on, you got a little bit of pre-spawn, you got spawn, and you got a little bit of post-spawn during most of that springtime. And with that, meaning if you have a post-spawn situation where there's any fry around and you're throwing a buzzbait, it's a pretty good shot you're going to get them. A lot of those big bass, when you're throwing it, the big females hanging around, they'll eat a buzzbait. Okay, so they're on a bed, and here comes this buzzbait over the top. They just, get out of here. And so yes, I've caught plenty on a buzzbait. My favorite's probably throwing a thunder cricket. The Strike King thunder cricket. I think I got it right here. Just throw this, Strike King bladed jig and tremendous bait. It won just about everything last year. And it's one of those things that, it just vibrates so good, and it's one that you can pick them up, without seeing them, and you get it close to them and hear something coming into their bed. And so, yeah, there are a number of baits that you can catch them on a bait, like a hard bait rather than soft plastics. But normally if I'm looking at them, I'm a soft plastic kind of guy.
All right. Todd in Iowa wants to know, how important is line diameter when sight fishing?
Can be very important, guys, very important. So, my favorite, and that's that Lew's rod right here, the Magnum heavy cover is it's a 7.6, beast rod. I'm usually filling it with 20, sometimes 25 if you're in a situation where you're catching a big one. And a Braze X, Cigar Braze X is probably my favorite for that. So that Lew's rod is great, and the reel and the line is perfect. Now, a lot of times they don't want that big line. They just shy away from it. So I keep my spinning rods rigged up, and I go down to 6, and I'll have 8 and in VizX on there. And then you can just kind of pull into them in little tiny hooks, and they have a terrible time getting rid of those hooks. So those little hooks, they stick something and they can't get rid of them. But now you got to take your time and battle them. So if you got a lot of cover, it's tough. And if you remember, I won 3 at Rayburn, and most of those came with 10-pound test back in the bushes. So you'd hook them, and they'd run through 3 or 4 bushes, and then they'd kind of stop, and you'd pull them back to you, and then they run through 3 or 4 the other way, and then you pull them back to you, and they run through 3 or 4 another way, and you'd be like, come on, man, just give up.
Was that braid to fluoro or straight mono?
Yeah, this was back in the day with mono, and so finally they would give up, and you'd land them, and you'd land most of them. You just had to take your time. So the point being is that, yes, sometimes they're extremely line shy. So if you see me in a sight fishing tournament, you're going to see 2 or 3 spinning rods on my deck and 2 or 3 bait casters and a couple, of the Texas rig stuff, and then a couple of search rods that I want them to see if, maybe I'm going to get them to bite a cricket as I'm going along looking, or maybe I get them to bite a buzz bait or a topwater bait, frog, something like that. And so that's kind of my normal, sight fishing, springtime, arsenal on the deck of my Triton.
All right. Very cool question. Very curious about this one from Bo in Tennessee. He wants to know, does anybody use a tube anymore to sight fish?
Yes, and they're awesome. It's really good. It's interesting that you have so many more baits nowadays, and they're good baits. I mean, they're really good baits. The old reliable tube is still exceptional. I mean, just exceptional. It's a great lure to have, and keep it on the rod. And I use the Denny Brower flipping tube because it's a little bit bigger. It's that 4-inch rather than the little 3-inch KVD tube, or 3.5-inch, whatever. So that 4-inch is a really good size tube to have for catching them.
All right.
Should I ask the right? Bobby in Lakeland, Florida would like to know.
Ask away. Last name Lane.
This is legitimate. He asked us to ask you this.
Yeah.
He said, I won't even do it in the Bobby voice. He wants to know that he said he has seen you sitting on beds where the fish aren't ready to go, where sometimes they're beds where the females aren't even up there. He said, but Shaw, for somehow, some way, knows that those females are going to be ready to go in a couple hours, or that they're going to show up. How the hell do you know whether you're looking at a bed where there'll be a fish that is not catchable, or there isn't even a fish right now, but there will be later? And how do you know to go back to that and have the patience to hang out?
Well, now Bobby's really digging.
That was his question.
That's what it was. Yeah.
He said, I got a question for him when he heard you were on tomorrow.
Yeah, and I love Bobby, and so what you see a lot of times is you're easing along, or you're sneaking along, or you're moving and looking and in practice. And, sometimes, and you'll hear it over and over. I remember hearing it over and over on the St. Johns River, where a guy's sitting there fishing a 2-pounder, on a bed, because I need a 2-pounder. And all of a sudden an 8-pounder will swim into the bed. And he's like, oh my gosh, whack, he catches an 8-pounder, and he never knew it was there. Well, that fish was there, except they move off. They feel you coming. A lot of them are real skittish, and some of them take a long time to come back, right? And so a lot of times in practice, I may have to sit 15 minutes or 20 on a bed and stay way off and say, come on, you got to. So the other day I was just having fun out on a little lake, Lake Santa Fe, and I'm sitting watching this little male on a stump, and I'm looking, and all of a sudden here comes this pig in. But it took probably 15 minutes before she decided to come back and was comfortable that I'm there. So a lot of times I've seen that fish, I know it's there, or I'm just really struggling and need that little one, and I'm waiting, and here comes a big one. It's all those things combined. Most of the time I see them, and I know they're there. I've seen them in practice. I've seen the big ones in, and then I'll just sit on it and wait on her.
All right, Nate in Arizona wants to know, what's the largest bass you've caught off a bed?
13.6.
Where was that at?
Toho in a PAA tournament, and I caught that fish, and I caught a 13.5 off a bed, and those are my 2 biggest fish that I've ever caught and that I've landed, and they're both off the beds. Right. One on a little tube, and one on the old rodent, which was basically the rage bug without all the flange and wiggle of a rage.
Yeah. Let's see here. Tom in Texas wants to know, how important are your electronics when it comes to sight fishing?
Yeah, when it's actual sight fishing, you'd say, well, what is an electronics going to do for you? Well, let me tell you what it does. In most tournaments, in practice, I'll have from 100 to 200 to 300 waypoints, okay, in most of my sight fishing tournaments. On those waypoints, I edit each one of them. So I may have 10 waypoint 13s, right? And one will be 13.3, meaning the 3-pounder. 13.5, that's a 5-pounder. And most of the time when I'm putting that number in, and it's just like, if you remember, I told you the story about Gary Klein sitting there, you mind me catching these two right here, and I thought they were 3-pounders, and it turned out to be a 5 and a 6. And so usually when you're looking at one, you kind of underjudge them in the water. Now, some people big eye them, but most of the time when I look at them, I go, oh, that's a 3-pounder, and it turns out to be a 4.5 or a 5. Or you say, it's a 7-pounder and it's a 9. And so that's kind of my normal deal. So when I mark them, I try to judge them as good as I can. And I mark the fish and I put it in there. So now when I'm sitting there and I go, man, I need a fish. And I go, right here is a 3-pounder and right there's a 5-pounder. And, and so it tells me where to start, where my next move is, and how to get them that is my real thing, is about the GPS. So my sonar probably doesn't play as big a part, except in locating areas to catch them. A lot of times those spawners want something coming in, something deep water access to a flat. So if you have a ditch to a flat, they're going to be on either side pretty good. And so if you go to the back of a creek and you see the old creek channel running through there, and you know where that is, on the edges you might have some stumps and stuff. And that's the primary bed and stuff. So, a lot of times I'll be using the sonar for that, but the real deal is the GPS. My Lowrance HDS, the GPS is precision, and I use the antenna on the bow of my unit. I got the HDS, the 16 live, on the front deck right with me. So that antenna I use, I put it on local, because if you're on global, you're picking up, you might be picking up your 0.1 in the back of the boat. And if you mark a fish and it's using the antenna in the back of the boat rather than the antenna right there where you're at, then you're off. And you need to know exactly where that bed is. So when I mark a bed, it's where I'm sitting or standing right then on the deck of my Triton. I'm marking it. I know that GPS antenna is within 1 foot of me. And so I know it's right there. So when I go back, that precision and knowing exactly where that fish is, and then being able to make that cast and catch the fish, that's priceless. So yes, I use my Lowrance a lot. And like I said, almost every fish I have ahead of time, and I'll just rotate around and say, wait a minute, I got to run over here and catch this one. And it's pretty hard when you've got a lot of fish, on beds like at Lake Fork. I was going along and I say, hey, I've got a 3-pounder over here, but dadgummit, there's just, there's 5 between here and there, and you want to just go fishing, So the guys that really impressed me, and that's what I think the younger group, and that's what really makes them so good, is that they're fearless. And so they would literally go, I got a 7-pounder here. Now I have, 4 3-pounders around me, but I got a 7-pounder here, and then I can run 15 more minutes up the lake and catch another 7-pounder. And so they don't worry about all the rest of the fish. And me, I'm kind of like, let's just keep catching. Let's go to the next one. And I, I'm not a runner, never have been a runner and gunner. So it comes to a detriment at times that you don't like jumping on plane and running 15 minutes and going catching 1 or 2. I'm one of these guys that really likes to get in an area and work it and catch what's there, and then go to a new area and catch what's there.
All right, Matt and I have had this discussion. This is a personal, selfish question. When do you know when to really beat up the fish, classify it as beating it up, getting it fired up, or when do you know to finesse it and leave the bait there and just let the fish get fired up itself?
That's a great question. And so most of the time I use that as time progression. So when I start on a fish, I'm trying to finesse it. I want to lay back. I want to do all the little details and piddle with him and all that. And if they're just not acting right, well, then you just got to beat up on them. And so that you run a risk, because I've had a few that you beat up on and they say, I'm out of here. Because we never know. When we pull up on a bed, you never know, is that bed, did that female just lay the eggs? Did that male just build the bed and is protecting a little bit of his territory? Is the female there and she's really protecting? It's just happened. Is the female on her way out? You don't know in that time frame of spawning cycle what that bed's in, because you're not there. You're only catching a snapshot of the day you're there, or maybe a practice day and such. And so in that sense, I try to finesse them first, and then if you have to beat up on them and just get them to where they're really mad at you, then you do that, and that's my last ditch effort.
Okay, Matt and I had this discussion on a previous show when we were talking about sight fishing. Should you beat them up in the head or in the tail?
Well, it really doesn't matter. If you just drag across their body, they're going to spin and get out of it. You drag it across. If you always run a risk if you bump them that you can actually hook them, and that's not a good thing. And of course you can't. Once you do one of those, they're usually so shy. Then you've just defeated your purpose. So the real thing is just kind of drag it, get him to spin, and finally he just gets mad at you and goes, okay. And of course, I'm just so thrilled to be part of Major League and the Bass Pro Tour, because we take that fish, check them out, just like everybody should when you go sight fishing. Even that 13.5 and 13.6, they both got released back in the water, and so alive. And so the point being is that it's really cool to be able to catch, weigh them, release them. If you take bass home, and I don't fault people for going and taking and eating bass and all that, if you take one out of the water, even if it's in September, you kept that bass from spawning. So, on the conservation note, I really prefer to let them get through the springtime and get their stuff done and catch crappie and all kinds of other fish, and then let them do their deal and repopulate the lake. So that's kind of a good thing to do.
All right, very cool. You good on time? Are you okay on time?
Oh, I'm good with you guys, man.
All right, very nice. All right, the questions keep coming in. A loyal listener, Big Polly from Long Island, New York, wants to know what you feel your second best strength is besides sight fishing.
Wow, I love it. So, sight fishing is good. I love flipping. So, if you look at my career, back in '84, I won the Red Man All-American, which was the now FLW, which is, so I won that flipping and flipping in the Kissimmee chain. So I was a flipper. Then I was a sight fisherman because I won some BASS tournaments. Then I won one on spinner baits in Sinclair in Georgia, and won a BASS there. And so when you look at it, I have a lot of techniques that I really, 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 really like, and techniques that I'm pretty good at. Flipping, of course, is one of them, but being a professional angler, you've got to be able to do it all. And I love drop shot. I love finesse techniques. And really, I've made a lot of money drop shotting, a lot of money, and that's a good one for me. But do I have something that I feel is like I really stand out above? And I'm, if we're drop shotting, there's guys like Aaron, and we keep praying for Aaron, by the way. It's great to see him back fishing and out, man. It's awesome. But anyway, so, Aaron is probably one of the best, and Brent Ayler is probably one of the best drop shotters out there. Those two guys are just ridiculous. And so, if you're on that deal, that there's some guys that are a little bit better. Denny always said, if you specialize in something, when that time comes around, you're probably going to win. It could, because, his flipping and pitching techniques, nobody could beat him. So when he got on one of those, he just beat you. That's all it is, just beat you. And so, and you always had to look at it that way. So, back in the day, that was me sight fishing. Now it's kind of like, I do a little bit of everything, and I feel confident with most things. I would answer that. I don't know that I have a second, because I feel really good with the cricket in my hand, the Strike King Thunder cricket. I feel really good with a spinnerbait. I mean, I really like spinnerbaits. I feel really good if I'm flipping and pitching, swimming a jig, but almost all those are shallow water techniques. When it comes to what am I worst at, is easier for me to handle, and that is that offshore bite. I almost won a classic cranking, deep cranking, and on Logan Martin, and I finished second behind Fritz. But the point being is that it's not the techniques, it's the finding of those fish. So you find your fish out on these ledges and drops, and yet you go back there and you can't get them to bite. And then you go to this next spot, and the guy pulls in behind you, and they turn on, and he whacks 20 pounds. And I've never understood that timing aspect of those ledge bites, And so to me, that's the most frustrating thing is go to Kentucky Lake, and I go all day long, and I find two spots or one spot, two spots, and then you're like, and then you go all day your next day of practice, and you find another couple, and then you start rotating through them, and they bite first thing in the morning, then all of a sudden you just got nothing, and then they may turn on again some other time, and you just don't know. And if you make the wrong cycle, you just have to run them. You watch Kevin do it; it's amazing. Just 20 miles down, like nope, not happening. Over here, nope, not happening. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 he catches. When he finally hits one, he catches 25, 30 pounds. He's done. It's just that quick. So that's probably my biggest mental challenge, is that offshore, I call it the Paul Elias deep cranking stuff. That's a toughie for me.
All right. I'm curious. Matt has really gotten into crappie fishing. And
I love it.
All right. And he says that crappie fishing has actually helped him with his bass fishing. I'm curious, with your love and how much time that you spend saltwater fishing, has that saltwater fishing helped you when it comes to bass fishing?
Absolutely. And it keeps you tuned in the sense of, so, the fish that I fish for saltwater, redfish, snook, trout, trout are a lot more finesseful. That's that little, just work in and feel that little tick and get them. Mm-hmm. Snook are extremely like real finicky largemouth. That's what a snook is. Redfish are kind of bulldogs, and they kind of eat a lot like a bass, and all these fish will eat the same baits that we bass fish with. So, it's the same rods and reels. I get my lures out there and go fishing with it. And in fact, one of my favorite baits, and that big redfish, I caught on a thunder cricket. That thunder cricket's deadly. And so, it keeps you with the same techniques and the same baits and the same rods and the same lures. And so you're able to feel, everything from how that bait feels when it doesn't have one, and how that bait feels when something, blows up on it or sucks it in or takes a shot at it. And so, I think it's very helpful. And I think crappie fishing the same way. I love crappie fishing, and it's that subtle, dropping that little jig. And I'm not a live bait guy. Not even in saltwater. I'm still an artificial guy. I just like artificials. And so, when you're dropping that lure and you feel that little tick, and that's what's happening, and that they're just these light, subtle bites. And I think it definitely helps you.
Heck yeah. Have you ever done the snook around pitching a swim bait or something around the pilings that have the barnacles around them? I did that this fall. It was the most fun and the most frustrating thing. I think I had 13 takes, and I landed one, and it was like a 26-incher. It was like, they'd eat it, and you'd have 80-pound braid with like a 50 or 60-pound fluorocarbon leader on it, and they would just own you.
Yes, they do, and they're beasts. And when they're hanging around those pilings, I mean, it's like they got those. Every piling has razor blades on it, is what it is, and because they're not, those barnacles are really sharp, and they just touch your line, and it just zap, it's gone. And so it's frustrating. And I think my favorite thing on the snook though is during that mullet run when they're up on top and they're busting top water. Oh my goodness, it's sicko, dude. I mean, just to take a sexy dog or the mega dog and just and just boom, and big holes blow up, and then you just hope you get them out of whatever you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a real stupid question. Do saltwater fish spawn?
Yes.
Like bass? Is there anything that protects a bed that you can like sight fish a snook on a bed or something?
So when we tarpon fish, fly fishing, which is coming up here like in the next couple weeks, they're going to get really hot and heavy, the tarpon, and you'll see them daisy chaining around a big female, and that's supposed to be a spawning cycle. So apparently then, with what they do, and I'm not sure on the different species, but the redfish spawn, all of them spawn, but I don't know that they have beds like a bass does and protect it like a bass does. I think they drop eggs and such like that, but I'm not an expert on that. Okay. And you'd have to talk to a good saltwater biologist.
Sounds like a gar. Remember the gar, what the gar did? Yeah. I looked that up in freshwater. You see the big female gar with all the little gar around it. Right. Well, those little gar are banging the female gar to make her shoot her eggs out, and then they're all going down and having a party on the eggs once they drop on the bottom. So that's got to be similar to what's going on in the saltwater with the daisy chaining.
Yeah. All right. Frank in Michigan has a great question. Is it important to camouflage your clothing when you're sight fishing?
And Frank, that is absolutely yes, it would be. We wear these, and I got my tournament jersey here, and so my tournament jersey is usually pretty subtle, blue. I think you got blue skies, it's pretty good. I would say you don't want to wear bright pink or reds or things like that. And if you're in the clearer the water, the more that's going to mean something. Okay, the little bit of stained or dirty water, you probably can be a little less. But yeah, I'm not worried too much about my jersey. I really want to watch my movement, and I want to watch my clothing not being bright. So as long as I don't have something really bright that they can see, then I'm okay. And if you do have something bright they can see, then you just have to stay back farther, and you have to make longer casts, and you really have to watch that movement of your hands and body, and even the rod when you're making that cast, that rod in the air. You remember they're looking for, things like when they're shallow like that, they're on a bed, these osprey can see them and dive down and pick them off. So they have to be really vigilant about what's overhead, and so seeing movement is that's a great question. And yes, you would always do better if you really want to take it, is to be something camouflage to whatever your background is. So for them looking up, a lot of times it's that light blue clouds or whitish blue and stuff. I even have my Sims, if you see underneath here. I'm getting undressed here on camera. So it's that cloud, blue and white and all in cloud, and that could be a great one to have its camouflage for looking up.
Yeah, very cool.
Wow.
All right, Joe in Tennessee wants to know, what's your favorite topwater lure during the spawn?
Gosh, it varies. I love a sexy dog. I love a frog. If I can get them on a frog, oh my goodness, the hollow-bodied, sexy frog. And now I'm just addicted to the popping perch, because the popper, it walks so good, and yet you can get it through a lot of cover, and it's a beast. So the popping perch and the sexy frog are two of my favorites. To me, it was kind of interesting if you were watching the Texas tournament, the Bass Pro Tour at Lake Fork, And somebody the last day, on the final day was going, man, I caught one on the frog. He says, it makes me feel, it's just, powerful and all that. And I'm like, that's what it is. It's a beastly bite because you got 65-pound braid and you whack it, you just drag them up. That's like the ultimate in beast mode and power. So I love that. But sometimes it's got to be finesseful, and a rage toad or the super toad, Strike King super toad or rage toad are great too. It's a buzz bait that just goes through anything. The toads, they just sit there and you just reel them across the top. Pretty much use that same hook I was showing, the TK170, and so that's a great hook to have for a toad bite. So those are my favorite baits for topwater in the springtime. Toad, frog, and sexy dog are just incredible.
All right, this is an interesting question from John in Columbia, South Carolina. If you don't have power poles, what's the best way to position your boat to try and catch a spawning fish? Could you use spot lock or one of the trolling motors that have that feature on there? Now, what are your thoughts?
It's an interesting thing. So in shallow water, and I always carry, I got a push pole, 2-piece stiffy push pole that is just great. So I would stick it in the ground and lock my leg around it, standing on the deck, and hold it in place and still fish. So that pole would be like, locked into my arm right here, and I could still have 2 hands to fish. I used to push pole a lot, and it's good to be quiet and stealthy. The problem with an anchor mode on a trolling motor when you're shallow is depending on that wind direction. And most of the time I like blocking that bed with my boat. And so that wind direction, if you put it down, first off, your boat's going to swing downwind. And second off, your motor is in shallow water, so it's going to spin up mud and silt and trash your stuff. So, and I'll tell somebody that if you use, your anchor mode, your spot lock, and you use that in a shallow water situation, I'm hoping you're not sight fishing because you're going to muddy up whatever you got. And so that's really a not a good use for that application. That's really good when you don't have it. So what's good is a pole, a push pole to hold yourself. They have what's called spud poles. So you can put a little loop or something on your boat and a pole that's it's like a power pole spike, but it's a power pole, and you just pole and you just ram it down in the ground, and it'll hold the back of the boat, and you can do the same in the front. You could drop an anchor, but oh my gosh, that's a pain. It gets in the mud, and a lot of times it drags. But a pole you can stick, and so. The what they call a spud pole, those work well.
Remember Rojas used to do the anchor?
Yeah.
I remember watching him. He would have it all rigged up before the day, then he put it in his back compartment with the rope already tied off to the cleat, and then he'd drop an anchor on one side, and then he'd do like that pole up at the front, and he'd go through the loop of his trolling motor.
Yeah.
So it kind of held him in place. And this was back when everyone had power poles. He just was holding out.
I don't know what the deal was on that. It's kind of funny. Hey, I'm curious. I remember, and this is years ago, being on Lake of the Ozarks, and I saw a bass boat go by, and this guy had a 6-foot ladder on the deck of his boat. Do you remember the first time, and I don't know if you ever did it, but do you remember the first time you saw somebody with a step ladder on the deck of their boat, and you're like,
absolutely,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that was at the St. Johns River, and the Lake George bed and fish got really big time, and people catching big ones, and that's the first place I saw it. I'm like, are you kidding me? They had a big ladder. Of course, you climb up in the ladder and fish. And you can see a long way and do that, and that's okay. I'm a short guy. I'm kind of anti these rules where they say you can't stand on your trolling motor or you can't stand here or there. I'm like, really? I mean. When you're 5'9", you're vertically challenged compared to Jared Littner that's like 6'2" or 3 or whatever these guys are. And so it would be nice to just have those extra couple inches. And motor guide mount is like flat, just, like perfect for standing on. But anyway, if you get up though, you got to remember, the higher you get up, yes, you can see, but they can see you too. So there's if you remember, there's a number of guys that do very, very well. Sight fishing, Prosnick, one of them, and you'll see them sometimes sitting on the deck.
Yeah.
They may be sitting on the floor of the boat fishing. They don't want to be up. They've seen the fish, they know he's there or whatever, and they make that long cast. They sit down there and it's just, work at a quarter inch at a time, and all of a sudden just go, doop, and you're like, and then you feel him kind of pull a little bit and whack, and you got the big one. So that's kind of a very, 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 and Prosnick's one of the best sight fishermen there is right now.
All right, this has been a great show, and I got to give props to the fans out there. They have asked some great questions today, Shaw.
Yes, they have.
We're gonna let you go. I have one final question though. Do you miss, or how much do you miss doing the television show?
I really don't. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm over at my son's house right now because he has really good internet, and I have really sucky internet at my house. And But I got my little granddaughter running around here, and she's a hoot, and I've got two granddaughters. One's 3, Charlotte, and Emerson, who's here, and she's basically 2. And then I've got a grandson, Bryce, that's 13. And that TV show took a lot of family time, a lot of time to film and do it, and I enjoyed doing it. But at this stage in my life, I'm really loving being a grandpa, being a grandpa and taking my grandson fishing and hunting, and taking my granddaughters. I get to take them out in the boat. It's just a hoot. It's a hoot to watch them and enjoy their excitement and watch them grow up. So no, right now I enjoy where I'm at. Absolutely.
Very nice. Tarpon fishing very soon?
Yes, absolutely, man. Tarpon on fly. It'll be happening. And see, this is really kind of a cool thing because, as this virus comes on, a lot of people aren't traveling. So, some of my best buddies that are just, super guides and are booked every day, they may not have a client that shows up. And I may be.
Yeah, that's a bucket list thing for me. I've never done the tarpon fishing thing. I want to do it, man.
It would be rough.
Really?
I don't know if I could handle it.
I'll tell you a quick story. And one of my favorites is Skeet wanted to come tarpon fishing, and I love Skeet, and I said, come on down, and so he got in the boat with me, and I pulled him around for a couple days. And he hooked a pig, like one of these 130s, 140s, whatever. It was a gorgeous tarpon. That guy, Skeet Reese, is an excellent, and when I say excellent, he is an excellent fly caster. And you take a fly caster, somebody that can cast, and then somebody that knows fish, how to get one to eat. He's really good. So he fed them well. They ate. He hooked them up and fought it and got it all the way to the boat. And in the last few seconds, you're down to the last, 10 minutes or whatever. And this big pig jumps right at the bow of the boat. I mean, just 6 feet off the bow, just comes up like that. And I think Skeet tried to boat flip him. and it pulled off, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But it was awesome, and like I said, I've been very impressed with Skeet and his knowledge of fishing. He's not only a great bass fisherman, but he's a great saltwater angler. He's just a great angler, and that's pretty cool. A lot of guys will just be freshwater. Well, Skeet can do it all.
Yeah, he loves the steelhead too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's really into that whole steelhead fishing up in California. So, yeah, great dude. Great time on the water. I actually got a chance to do the steelhead thing with him one time, and I about drowned because he took me out in this river, and that was like my first experience. And I'm not kidding, man. I was really, really scared. I thought I was going to drown and my waders were going to flood, and he's just laughing at me. But great time. All right, man. We're going to let you go, Shaw. Just a fantastic show. I know the fans greatly appreciate all your guidance when it comes to sight fishing. I know I do. And, man, look forward to seeing you soon, and hopefully you guys will be back in business here shortly.
Yes, I hope so too. We miss it. We miss the competition. We really miss the fans and the whole deal. We just miss being out there. So, man, I hope this stuff goes away, and I hope we get back to normal. I'd like to see that. I don't know if we'll ever be back to normal, but we probably won't be shaking hands anymore or hugging each other anymore. But we'll be okay, and that's fine. We just have to get back to fishing and get back to life as normal.
All right, man. Be safe and take care. We'll talk to you soon, Shaw.
See ya.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
take
man.
care.
All right, take care. Shaw Grigsby there, folks. Wow, what a great show, Matthew.
Good stuff.
Yeah, well, it's near and dear to my heart, the whole sight fishing thing.
Really don't get to do it much. I mean, literally, like, in all honesty, 2-3 good days a year, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar. Monday might be that day here in Oklahoma. We don't get too many of them. Monday could be the day.
You want to go head to head?
I'm looking at the calendar because it's got to be a decent day. Monday might be the day. I do want to let everybody know I have Greg Hackney is booked for next week, so we're going to have Greg on.
I mean, if it's a perfect sight fishing day.
Might be. We're going to continue watching the weather and see what happens, but Monday might be the day.
Does good.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going to go, but any suggestions?
No, not on air.
What? What does that mean?
I got some places we might need to check out.
What, Uchi? You want to go kick my ass at Uchi?
No.
Jeez.
I'm talking about sight fishing. Fishing.
All right. Well, if you got a place, I'm all ears because everything is muddy except for Elmer Thomas, and I think they closed Elmer Thomas.
Yeah.
So, anyway, great show. Tomorrow, very excited. We're going to have Preston Clark on. Yes, the Elite Series was supposed to be at Santee Cooper this week, and it was 16 years ago this month that Preston Clark shocked the bass fishing world with what he caught at Santee Cooper. He's kind of been out of the fishing game for a while, but I thought it'd be a cool idea to have him on and kind of relive that incredible week that he had at Santee Cooper. So looking forward to that, and then Denny Brower on Thursday. Once again, folks, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps us out tremendously. And then obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us and do what you can to thank the sponsors that support this show. So greatly appreciate all the fans on the instant feedback today. Man, really good questions. And Matthew, another day tomorrow, man.
Looking forward to it.
All right, that's it, folks. We're out of here.